Hello, you amazing people. Welcome back to RXMemes. Today we're jumping into r/maliciouscompliance, and some of these stories are really good. Let's get ready to laugh together. They're almost as funny as some of these comments that you guys leave. Some of you are hilarious. Some of you I don't really know about yet, but without further ado, let's get into the video. Wear a suit? Sure thing. So I just found out about this subreddit. This story was told to me several times by my dad about a friend of a friend, so some details are hazy. And some of the wording is what was recounted. So just to let you know, it is as accurate as far as I can remember it. This story takes place in Australia. A friend of a friend, who we'll call Bob, was working as an IT manager in a large bank, back when things were starting to get to the fully electronic level. He worked in the back since he was monitoring the systems and running the upgrades, doing whatever else IT does. Naturally though, Bob never saw any customers at the bank. So Bob was allowed to wear what he wanted, within reason. Usually it was casual to business casual. This was until Bob's big bosses passed down a requirement. All employees must wear suits. He asked his boss, "Well, I never have to see any customers, so why should I wear a suit?" His boss replied that it was company policy, so yes, he did have to wear a suit. For some details that are important, Bob was also somewhere around 5'11" to 6'2" and had vibrant ginger hair. Bob complied with the policy, of course. Bob got a suit. He got an electric neon blue crushed velvet suit. The next day, Bob went into work wearing his new suit. "Is this what you're going to wear?" "Well, you said I had to wear a suit." Bob was sent home for a week for a vacation. He wasn't fired as far as I know. When he came back to work the following week, company policy about suits had changed for workers interacting with customers only. Or at least, Bob never had to wear a suit while working for the bank again. Again, little fuzzy on the details since it's a passed down story, but that's the MC story I have for now. I know that he wasn't to be seen by customers, but how awesome would it be to go to a bank and see a worker in a crushed velvet electric blue suit? I definitely want him handling my money. Why don't you speak Spanish? It's not that hard. I am on a phone. This just happened. This post has no intention to target anyone who speaks Spanish. I work at a pizza place and got a phone call. Goes like this. "Hi, thank you for calling XXX Pizza. Is this for delivery or carryout?" "I'm sorry, I don't understand." "You don't speak Spanish?" "No, sir, but how can I help you?" "I want to talk to someone who knows Spanish." "I'm sorry, sir, it's just me right now, but how can I help you?" Every time I called before, they answered in Spanish. I have an idea it was my manager who he spoke to, but he was off that day. "Okay, well, delivery or carryout?" "Delivery." "Can I have your name and address?" "My name is Inigo Montoya. You should already have my address." "Can I get it again to reconfirm?" "You're kidding me. I order here all the time." "I'm just following the protocol, sir." He starts to get irritated with me, and unfortunately it's difficult to hear him. There's background noise, he speaks fast, and no offense, his accent was difficult to pick up. When I asked him to say the order again, he yells into the phone. "See, it is easier in Spanish so you understand. I've never had problem before. Why can't you speak Spanish? It's not hard, you should know." I get pissed. I've been patient with him so far. "Okay, if you're going to be rude, why can't you just speak English me properly? I'm just trying to help you." "You f***ing race. Can you speak Tagalog? It's not that hard, you should know too." I'm Filipino. He says something in Spanish that I can only assume is cussing me out. I say in Tagalog, "You don't even know. Good night," and hang up. Again, I'm not pointing fingers at anyone who speaks Spanish. I apologize if this came off a little racist. I was just trying to help him. I can completely empathize with OP having too many years of experience in retail. And Canada is a melting pot, okay? And I used to work at a place, I'll just say it, I used to work at Shoppers Drug Mart, which is like Canada's biggest drugstore or like pharmacy. And I had customers all the time who spoke various languages and not English, and many of these people like immigrated here, and that is great. Like, I'm so happy for that. However, I'm pretty sure you're supposed to learn English or French, like one of the country's main languages. It's never frustrating being patient with somebody who's just trying to communicate. However, it is extremely frustrating for somebody who doesn't speak the national language and is acting entitled that you should speak their language. And I guess Spanish is like a very common language, but when the language is like Farsi, and I'm only using that because my family speaks that, when they expect you to speak Farsi and you're like just some Canadian person, it's a bit frustrating. Grandpa and the Dead Man's Land. This happened when I was about 10 years old. My grandpa used to take care of one of his uncles. This man was in his late 70s, and due to an accident involving a machete and a huge blood loss, he was handicapped for life. He wasn't able to communicate or to take care of himself, so my grandpa took the matter on his hands and took care of him. He didn't live that far away, so every afternoon after grandpa came from work, I went with him to visit the guy. He had a huge plot of land on a zone that lately became very urban and developed. After some time, Grandpa wasn't able to look after him anymore, so he decided to take him to a nursing home where he could get the medical attention he required. This wasn't cheap, and so he asked for his cousins to chip in some money for the expenses. All of them came with sob stories about poverty and bullshit, and no one gave a single coin. So my grandpa took the expenses and paid from his own pocket. Not surprisingly, a couple of years later, the man died and my grandpa buried him. Again, with his own money. Suddenly, all of his sons, about 4 people, came to my grandpa asking about the land and what will he do with that. They reclaimed that the land was for them as directly successors, and my grandpa had nothing to do about it. Grandpa was mad, like insanely mad. Never seen him like that. Not only was he still grieving his dead uncle, but also he had to deal with a bunch of ambitious and greedy sons that let his father rot. So he met all of them and proposed to sell the land and share the money. He said he only wanted back the cost to bury the man, and the rest of the money will be given to them. All of them accepted and signed some sort of contract to give my grandpa the rights to sell the land for whatever price he considered better. I'm not that good with measurements, but the land was something around 50 meters by 100 meters, filled with trees mostly. He sold that land for something around 200 USD in the early 2000s. The funeral costs were around 150 USD, and so each of the sons got about 10 to 15 USD in money from his father. They tried to reclaim, to blame my grandpa for some bullshit, to sue him, but alas, they have signed all the documents, giving him the right to sell the plot. Now there's a beautiful housing project in the plot. Sadly, they cut down the trees from where I used to play and pick fruit. We've never seen again the greedy sons for good. Grandpa is a good man, never wanted the land, he just wanted his uncle to rest in peace. Add up what everyone owes me. Sure thing, boss. This happened a few years back, but I remembered it at work today. I work at a spa salon at the front desk. The employees get a pretty good discount on services, so plenty of them get their nails, lashes, hair, etc. done regularly. The rule is pay when you are done your service, like any other client, but some wiggle room was allowed in the case of payday is tomorrow. I'll pay as soon as the money goes through. Or if the front desk was busy helping clients and they had to leave, we know where they will be tomorrow morning at 9. We would put these services on hold and the employee would pay ASAP. It mostly worked on the honor system of don't abuse it or we can't have nice things anymore. Most employees were pretty good about it, but of course there were the few that regularly forgot for days or weeks, or I can't pay today, I'll pay tomorrow. And these few were usually the ones with the most seniority. In years worked, not power. One of these employees in particular was far worse than the others. On to the compliance. One day the owner comes in to pick up some things and asks someone on the desk, "What is that little button with 23 notifications on it?" I stepped in and answered, "That's the staff services that are on hold. We have less than 23 employees, which means that one or more employees owed for multiple services." The owner exploded. She started shouting that it's absolutely ridiculous this many people owed her money, and how could you have let it get this far? And who are the employees that owe? I started to reply, well, most of them are. She cuts me off and says, just add it up now and tell me so I can talk to them about taking it out of their paychecks. I started to open up the window to show the list of employees who owed for services and said, okay, just letting you know that the reason there are so many, and she cuts me off again and says, ugh, you guys always have an excuse. There is no excuse, just do it, and storms off to the staff room. My other desk coworker, who had been hiding in the bathroom, I can't blame her to be honest, comes out and asks, did she see the names on the list? I replied she did not and got to work on my list, writing out the names of the employees next to their total owing for the services in order from most owed to least. About 30 minutes later, the boss comes down in all her holy terror and demands the list. I handed it to her, and after glancing at it for a moment, she froze. Y'all, if you've never seen someone lose their steam in front of your very eyes, I highly recommend it. At the top of my list is this owner's adult daughter's name, who happens to be an employee and consequently owes the spa nearly $400 in services, after her 50% discount, and not including tax. She had gone back to school recently and was only working part-time, so I guess she was short on money and regularly snuck out without paying for her lashes and her nails. Back to my shell-shocked boss. After staring at the list for a moment in silence, she went over to the computer, opened up the list of on-hold services, and scrolls through. 90% of the services on hold are her daughter's. After a few more minutes of staring at the list, she finally looks up and says, "I'm her mother and the owner, so I'm going to pay this. However, I want all the receipts to give her, and she is not to get any services unless she prepays. I'll tell her this myself. Make sure the rest of the on-holds are paid by the end of the employee's next shifts." I cashed her daughter's services out, bundled the receipts, gave them to my boss. She thanked me and left. I am simultaneously sad and relieved that I wasn't present for the verbal ass-whooping her daughter received.